Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, today it's going to be kind of an off-the-cuff day. It's a little later. When I do the videos at 4, I'm not having a hard time, but I have a hard time deciding on which story I want to do. This is one thing, you know what, I was debating whether I wanted to say this at the beginning of the video or the end. I believe, without a doubt, and this is a horrific premonition. I'm warning you guys right now. I believe without a doubt Donald Trump is going to announce he's running for president. I believe he's going to do that on Monday, the 4th of July, especially after everything that's happened this last week. Alex Jones came out on his show and said he has inside information. Roger Stone, these are two of Trump's closest cronies, and they both come out in the last day or two saying they know for a fact that Trump is going to announce his presidency. This is horrific. And one of the reasons I think he's doing this is to take the attention away, because he looks horrific. He looks terrible. All the information that's coming out from Cassidy Hutchinson and the right wing Washington Examiner believes her. This is a right-leaning newspaper. And they think Donald Trump should never hold any political office again. I'm glad to see that some Republicans actually have morals or a sense of decency. I hate to predict this, but I'm confident. I'd be amazed if he didn't announce his presidency. And this is just gonna make an already horrible week or month much worse. All right, what I wanted to talk about today it's one of Trump's favorite groups. I don't think I could say their name because they're such a radical right-wing group. I'm going to call them the P-Boys. I think I can say that. I came across a story. Link's right down below, and there's going to be a video with it. A group of Texas parents, again, this is one of the story times. This is the last day of Pride Month. And a group of Texas parents set up a human wall to prevent this group, this right-wing P-Boys group, from entering and doing whatever they intended to do, and that's questionable. So as I watch this video, you guys know that I'm extremely fascinated by human nature. What gets people to do things? People's intentions, people's motivations. As I have watched, first thing I noticed is these guys cover, like in Utah, they cover their entire faces. That tells me they're ashamed of what they're doing. They're embarrassed and ashamed of what they're doing. This isn't all about being arrested, which is bad enough that you're going to go do something dangerous, illegal, or whatever. But it makes me believe that they are ashamed or embarrassed of what they're doing. But more than that, I started wondering what kind of man, because these were all men, what kind of man takes because God knows, like, I have a busy day. I have a hard enough time just making, like yesterday, I had a hard enough time just carving like 15 minutes in to go and get my rent check made out for this next month. I had such a full day that just getting 15 minutes to do a chore that I had to do was hard. What kind of man takes all this time and energy to go and give off this violent aura, this negative influence on other people? And then I came across an article from talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's talking about red flag laws, and this is where it just gets from sad to scary. She talks about red flag laws. She says, how are like Trumpers, how are people supposed to protect themselves from school trans agendas and LGBTQ story hours at libraries if these red flag laws are enacted? And she named a few others. And this is another moment where my mouth just drops open. Is she saying what I think she's saying here? These people need firearms to protect themselves, first of all, from something that doesn't exist, the school trans agenda thing. That's just fear mongering. And then to protect themselves from, are you kidding me? From story hour at a library with LGBTQ. She said this. The link will be down below. She tweeted this. I tried to look to see if she actually there's any video of her actually saying this out loud, but there is. I'll put the link down below. There is an actual tweet, word for word, where she says the red flags wall will infringe upon her constituents from protecting themselves from the trans school agenda and these story hours. And as I look, like I said, as I look at this video in Texas, where these parents are obviously, the parents bring their kids there. Again, this is America. You'd think that groups like this would be about freedom of choice, freedom to do what you want, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. What kind of man, I'm guessing here, none of these men, I doubt any of them have wives or girlfriends, let alone kids. If they did have kids, I'm sure they wouldn't let them go there to these story hours because of their ideas. So these story hours really have absolutely nothing to do with these groups that are going there, taking their time and energy to go there and disrupt it, and God knows what, like with Marjorie Taylor Greene's post. It's scary, but what kind of man does that? How many? That's got to take up a full day. Who would dedicate their whole day to going and disrupting parents from bringing their kids to a story hour just because they don't feel comfortable with drag performers? And the more I started thinking about this, a lot of times I remember things, because I did have 2.5 decades of hard drug use. Something popped into I remember something I believe I was about 19 years old. And I want to tell you that story when I was thinking about what kind of man these P-boys are. They cover their faces and they go where it has absolutely nothing to do with them. The parents are bringing their kids to a library, for crying out loud. As and they turn this into a militant scene. And I started thinking about what kind of man does that. And then I remembered this. I remember I worked with this guy, and I knew he was trouble right from the get-go. Let me give you an example of that. Before what I'm going to tell you happened, I had crashed one of my Camaros. I had crashed my car, and it went to a body shop first, and then before I went to the junkyard because it was totaled. And I told this guy that I worked with about this. Okay, I just mentioned that. It's at the junkyard and it's totaled. All of a sudden, the cops show up where I'm working. Apparently, somebody had shown up there and stripped the car of all the mags, the tires, anything that was still good on the car. And they were questioning me about it because I knew it was at the body shop. And I thought about the only person I told was this guy. So that gives you an example of what kind of person this guy is. Of course, he denied it. Okay, we were talking about going out one night, and I knew this guy. This is before I really started developing my addiction. I drank, I partied, and whatnot. And my good friend, and this guy had talked about going out this one night. We were all about 19 years old. And so we went out, we went with him. And it turned into, as we were out, this guy, we'll call him Pete, kind of said, he brought up the idea of going to have some fun, as he called it. Now, my friend that was driving, he's a small guy and he was kind of easily influenced. I was sitting in the back seat. So the three of us, my friend actually drove down to this downtown area in this city where we live. And Pete's idea of a good time was going bashing. That's what we found out after. I was mad at my friend for even agreeing to go along with this, or even driving down to this area. The first thing I wondered is, how did this guy Pete know where to go? Because at 19, I had no idea where these hangouts were, where these bars were. There was another area, I guess, where they cruise. And what I found out later, there's gay prostitution there. And I wondered, how does, at 19, I had no idea where these places were. How does this guy know so much about this culture? I was wondering that. And he directed my friend to drive through this parking lot. And he said, turn around here. And as my friend turned the car around, Pete grabbed a big wine bottle and threw it out the window. And it was a summer day. It was a summer night. And the bottle went right through an open door. I found out later this was a gay bar. And it smashed in front of and it went all smashing inside the door, open door. And then he starts laughing. Pete starts laughing. He's like, get out of here, get out of here. I got out and walked. We went back towards the city. And my friend, being kind of wishy-washy, didn't want to call it a night. I ended up walking about 7 miles home that night. I wanted nothing to do with that. I was disgusted with my friend for going along with this, and I didn't want any part of this. So I think I got home around 2 a.m. Here's the thing. I found out later, in later years, this guy Pete, was arrested in that area for prostitution, male prostitution, for selling himself to male customers. I know where he is today. I don't know. I highly doubt. I don't want to speak badly of him, but I was wondering what kind of guy does stuff like this. And I think it's this goes right along with that. People that have issues, people that are can't come to terms with who they are. When I look at this group of P-boys, I think they have issues with their masculinity. Like I said, I'm no psychologist here, but who would do this? Who would carve so much time out of their day for such a negative endeavor? What are they going to get out of it? Their kids, or I'm sure their kids and their families' kids are involved in this. So why do they care where other parents bring their kids? Do they really believe this whole grooming agenda thing? I don't think so. I think these people have issues, just like my friend. Well, he wasn't my friend, but Pete did. So later I found out he just disappeared. I knew he had serious drug and alcohol problems. I'd heard he had been abused when he was a kid. And I saw his name in the paper being arrested for male prostitution. So that kind of answered my question on how he knew where this bar was and this cruising spot was because he went there himself and used these places himself. And there's nothing wrong with that, but when you have issues like this, sometimes I think people, when men have issues with this, they try to overact, try to compensate for their masculinity. They're insecure about their masculinity. I think they try to overcompensate. And when I see the P-boys in this whole library video, I think of Pete. I hope you guys understood what I was talking about. The links will be down below. You guys have a great Thursday.